Albert Einstein once said that the significant problems we face cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we were at when we created them. So therefore, we need to have a new mindset, a new level of education, new level of awareness, or try to see things from a very different perspective in order to solve them. So this session focused on business ethics, social responsibility, and the sustainability continuum by discussing the legal, ethical, moral, socially responsible, and obviously sustainable manner for making decisions in the workplace every single day. Let's go ahead and talk about a couple of categories of ethical theories. So one is basically the teleological view of ethics, and the other one is the deontological view of ethics. The teleological theories attempt to answer questions about right and wrong by focusing on whether a person's conduct will produce desirable consequences. So it's a moral philosophy that judges the outcome of each decision based on its utility to the greatest number of people. In a way, we can say it's a consequentialism view of ethics. It examines the net benefits produced for those who are involved as stakeholders, employees, customers, or any obviously entity that is involved with the organization. So this view considers the rightness or wrongness of an action in terms of its overall consequences. We can have egoism, utilitarianism, altruism fall in the category of teleological view of ethics. Egoism basically says a person should act as to create the greatest good for him or herself. Utilitarianism says that a person should behave so as to create the greatest good for the greatest number of people who are involved. So this perspective considers the greatest benefit to the largest population, which unfortunately always provides the short end of the stick for the minority group. Altruism, on the other hand, says a person should act in the interest of others, even when it runs contrary to his or her self-interest. So altruism might be a little bit closer to the deontological theories of ethics, which focus on the actions of the leader and his or her moral obligations in responsibilities to do what is right, to do the right thing, obviously. The deontological view or philosophy focus on the interior motivation of human behavior. So it states that an action should be considered ethical, not because of the results, but simply because it is the right thing to do. So in a way, we can say the ontological view of ethics is concerned or equal to non-consequentialism, which examines the actions in terms of rights and intentions. It evaluates the means of how things are done and why they are done, regardless of the consequences. So golden rule would be an example to treat others the way you want to be treated. On the other hand, we have ethical relativism, which is a moral philosophy that states that moral beliefs and principles may vary based on the current variables involved, the cultures, and the societies in which we might be operating. So according to this view, there are no universal principles because situations vary from location to location, from people to people, from organization to organization, and obviously based on value systems that people are brought up in. Then we have the Kant's categorical imperative. So this concept is called the supreme principle of morals. It is the universal moral rule in which we command ourselves to obey them. It states that act only on the maxim that you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law everywhere. So Immanuel Kant said that an action is moral if it meets the three conditions. Number one, if it can be suggested to be made consistently universal. Number two, if it derives and respects the autonomy of every single human being. And number three, if it respects rational beings as ends in themselves. Robert Fulghum, a long time ago, said that all I really need to know about how to live, what to do, and how to be, I learned in kindergarten. Share everything, play fair, don't hit people, put things back where you found them, clean up your own mess, don't take things that aren't yours, say you're sorry when you hurt people, Wash your hands before you eat. And no matter how old you are, when you go out into the real world, it's best to hold hands and stick together. Now, we would think that doing the right things in ethical things is common sense because we learned it in kindergarten. Unfortunately, common sense isn't always that common. So we really have to be very careful and teach our workers about our ethical expectations so we can be legally, morally, ethically, and compliant with society's expectations as well as the law. My colleague and co-author, Dr. Frank Cavico, will now explain some of the main ethical theories that I've mentioned to you, along with examples, so your actions can be legal, ethical, and moral, as well as socially responsible and sustainable over time.
In Western civ, there are four major ethical theories: ethical egoism, ethical relativism, utilitarianism, and Kantian ethics. And no, these are secular-based theories. It's reasoning from principles. You reason from the Clayton Act to make a determination as to whether the merger is legal. You reason from these ethical theories to make a determination, is the merger moral? It's an exercise in reasoning. That's what ethics is, at least to me, at the graduate level. Ethical egoism. What's a moral action? You're going to love this. An action is moral if it advances your own self-interest. How could you not like that? Go forth, make money, prosper, and you'll be acting morally. Just find something you like to do that's legal and moral, and you do well, and then do it. You will advance yourself and be prosperous, and also, as Adam Smith said, society will benefit. You may have to take a long-term perspective for you and your company. But what you're doing long-term, you are maximizing your own self-interest, you and your company. It's all about you. That's ethical egoism. So I said, particularly for School of Business, you've got to love that ethical theory. Egoists would say, take a long-term perspective, and also treat people well. It's in your own long-term self-interest, treat them well. Be nice, be polite. Don't be miserable. Don't be mean. Don't be demeaning, disrespectful, even if you have the power to do so. Why? Because it's not nice? No, it's stupid. Because it will come back to hurt you in the long run. Ethical relativism. Morality is based on what a society believes is moral. When in Rome, do as the Romans. You don't need your ethics course. You don't need an ethics book. You don't need a philosopher. Ethical relativism is when you need sharp eyes and ears. Find out what the moral norms are in the country you're dealing with. In Rome, do as the Romans. But you've got to be careful with this. You're expected to pay the foreign government official. This is an ethical theory. The Foreign Corrupt Practices Act is a law. And acting morally, in this case ethical relativism, is no defense to the law. Maybe if you're sentencing, well, everyone's doing it. And actually everyone in China is doing it. That's why J.P. Morgan did it, because they were losing these lucrative consulting contracts to competitors who were hiring, what, the sons and daughters, Mellon Banks, they were hiring kids for internships. If there are more good consequences than bad, the action is moral. Now, we always strive for win-win scenarios for all the stakeholders. You're familiar with that with your business background. But you have to predict consequences. What's going to happen in the merger to the shareholders, the employees, the distributors, the suppliers. If there's more good than bad, the action is moral. The ends justify the means. And if the end is more good overall, then the action is moral. Keep that in mind. Be careful with utilitarianism. One more ethical theory. German philosopher Immanuel Kant. And I said, you'll come across all this, not just in the law and ethics class or humanities majors who are taken as an elective, but you'll come across this in other classes. Categorical imperative. Kant's supreme ethical principles got three parts. Our time is limited. I'll deal with the main ones. Kant said, for an action to be moral, disregard the consequences. We've got a problem. The two major, relatively speaking, modern ethical theories in Western civ are diametrically opposed. Utilitarians say consequences equal morality. Kant says disregard consequences and instead apply a formal three-part test. Give you one part called I really like it, it's called the kingdom of ends. For an action to be moral, it must treat people as an end, human beings as an end. In other words, deserving of dignity and respect as worthwhile ends, not as a mere means. Kant is much more strict. It's a formal test that's applied to the action itself, to the means itself. So what do? There's no Supreme Court of Ethics. U.S. Supreme Court said Obamacare is legal. We got no so dealing with that issue, but it's legal, constitutional. There's no Supreme Court of Ethics. So what do I advise you to do? Well, 4 main ethical theories. Remember, your leaders, long-term perspective, we're willing to make some short-term sacrifice. What are you going to do? You're going to advance your self-interest and that of your firms. Obviously, that's ethical legalism. You're going to try to be as culturally competent as you can, without violating any laws. That's ethical relativism. You're going to strive for win-win scenarios for all the stakeholders, or at the very least try to minimize the pain to any stakeholder groups if you have to do something. That's utilitarianism. But you're going to achieve your own good and be culturally competent and achieve the greater good without what? Without demeaning or disrespecting anyone. That's Kantian ethics. That's your mindset. That's the goal. Egoism, relativism, utilitarianism, and Kantian ethics. Those are the 4 major ethical theories. And I said, that's your goal. Now, are you legally required to be moral? No. Legally required to be legal. Of course, wouldn't you lose your reputation for morality? Well, good luck with that. I got beat up for that reason. I've got somewhere here, I remember. What did the Wall Street Journal say? They said the VW, they created a culture of a tolerance for rule breaking. How do you do that? My background is not, I said, anthropology, my organizational theory of behavior. Some of you are taking that. Maybe you can examine that. How do you do that? What do we say in Jersey? The fish rots from the head. So what is your goal? Not to create a culture of tolerance for rule breaking, but you want to create a culture of what? Of respect for the law, of respect for morality and ethics, and then also a reputation as a socially responsible, sustainable firm. That's in your long-term self-interest. I mentioned social responsibility and sustainability in mutual funds. There's also a social responsibility in sustaining auditing for your accounting people. This is a nice little project. How do you go about doing it? I'm an English and poli-sci. You're going to tell me, as your professor. How do you go about conducting a social responsibility and sustainability audit? You can promote yourselves too. Nice position to have, vice president of global social responsibility for a firm, Timberland or Walmart. Social responsibility, you have to figure out what you're going to do. My suggestion is take a strategic marketing approach. Take a strategy course at the end of your program here, and tie your social responsibility efforts as much as possible into your mission, your brand, your image. Oh, Starbucks. They're engaged in building health clinics in Guatemala. Where does Starbucks get its coffee from mainly? Guatemala. What a coincidence. Home Depot is involved. Home Depot is involved with Habitat for Humanity, building houses. What a coincidence. Royal Caribbean is building schools in Labadee. Coincidentally is what? That's the private island. Why did they choose Labadee? Why Guatemala? Wow. What a coincidence. Now some people say that's cynical. I think it's smart, shrewd, strategic social responsibility, which means we've got the marketing people once again brought into the realm of social responsibility. Look, you don't want to do too much. Ben and Jerry's bankrupt the company before to sell it to a big multinational. Don't do too much. On the other hand, advice from an old professor here, don't do too little. All right, here's a Wall Street Journal definition. Sustainable companies. Companies that incorporate environmental, social, corporate governance practices into long-term corporate strategies. And note, when the Wall Street Journal talks in terms of corporate governance, they're talking not merely of the law, statutes, rules and regulations from administrative agencies, but they're talking of codes of ethics, codes of compliance too. So you see corporate governance, in most cases, it's a broad definition to include not just the law, God knows talks of law, but also ethics. Here's a general definition from the UN of sustainability. Taking care of people's present needs without compromising future generations. And the UN has given us a definition of sustainability in a corporate sense. A company delivering long-term value in financial, environmental, ethical, social, and economic terms. So you can see sustainability, as I said, is a broad definition with lots of components. They don't have legal in there, but I think they believe even before ethical that you're acting legally. Here's some advice from the UN. Quote, today it would be implausible for any global company to exclude sustainability from its agenda. What more can I say? Telling you that you're going to have to deal with, as a future leader, business and public sector, you're going to have to deal with sustainability. Don't take it from your old professor here. Take it from the UN. It'd be implausible for you not to deal with sustainability. And why? UN provides a rationale. There are new and different expectations on the role of business in society which are emerging. So there's a lot that's thrust on your shoulders as future leaders. You're going to have to deal with these issues. You're going to have to resolve these issues. And I said, as a leader, you're going to have to show the way. This is how I think you should think in terms of sustainability. Think in terms of sustainability as a means. In other words, sustainability in the form of environmental protection, conserving energy, reducing your carbon footprint, reducing greenhouse gases. Sustainability as a means. And that means it's part of the broader term social responsibility. But then also think in terms of sustainability as an end. In other words, you make sound decisions, and I'm always presuming you're going to make sound business decisions and sound decisions in the public sector. You make sound decisions, and you act legally. You act morally. You act socially responsibly. You act in a sustainable manner, sustainability as a means. The end result will be sustainability as an end. So, sound decision making, legality, plus morality, plus social responsibilities, plus sustainability as a means, environmental protection and conservation protection, equals what? Sustainability as an end. Sustainability for you, your family, your community, society as a whole, and the planet. So I want you to think of sustainability as a means and as an end, overall goal. And as I said, I want to make sure we define all these terms because it's important. Otherwise, people will be talking at cross purposes. That's not from me, that's from Socrates, 5th century BC. You've got to get the basic definitions down and the basic principle from those definitions. Otherwise, as I say, you're just talking at cross purposes, nothing is going to get accomplished. So you want a moderate, prudent amount of social responsibility tied to what? Tied to your image, your brand, your mission. So it's a strategic concept of social responsibility. It's a smart, shrewd concept of social responsibility. That's what I'm selling. I'm not saying save all the whales. Save the whales that are tied to your business, if that makes sense. You can figure it out. That's your goal. That's the expectation of society. For you all to act how? Making sound business decisions, sound decisions in the public sector, and then to act legally, then to act morally, then to act socially responsible in the sense of charitable endeavors and sustainability efforts. And what will the end result be? The end result for you will be, it says, success for you, and you'll be able to sustain that success for yourself, family, your community, society as a whole, as a planet. So, what do I want to leave you with? What's the mindset? What's the formula for success? 3 values I call it. You have to ask now. Always ask. Here, in future endeavors, academic and work. Is it legal? Is it moral? And what should a socially responsible firm be doing? Knowing the 2 key components of social responsibility, charity, and sustainability. And know that the end result will be a very egoistic one of success and sustainability.
The study of ethics and social responsibility is important for all managers, locally, nationally, and internationally. By understanding ethics, morality, and social responsibility, we can be better prepared to gain a sustainable competitive advantage while also avoiding unethical and illegal activity. An ethical climate is crucial for nurturing innovation, entrepreneurship, foreign direct investment in today's global and competitive business environment. As a matter of fact, one consideration for most firms and investors in selecting various locations and going global seems to be the presence in perception of an ethical climate. Factors that influence ethical decision making can vary. It can include culture, the institutional environment, and the societal value systems, including religiosity, social desirability bias, a risk attitude, individual value system, and on and on and on. Unfortunately, human beings have temptation, and sometimes we're tempted to do the wrong thing. Abraham Lincoln, one of the popular presidents in the United States, was known to be very honest. And that's why he's labeled as Honest Abe. There's a story of a man trying to bribe him, and he soon threw him out of his office, despite the fact that Abraham Lincoln was known to be a very calm and logical and rational person. So when asked why he threw the man out of his office, his reply was, well, every person has a price, and this man was coming very, very close to mine. If we're clear about our values, what we want, and the standards that we want to uphold, then decision making becomes very, very easy when it comes to bribery, when it comes to corruption. We can automatically reject what appears to at least be a bribe or a form of corruption. So having an effective training program can be a very, very good starting step in orienting people to the values and the expectations and the standards of the organization. Someone once said that, do not correct a fool or he will hate you. However, you can correct a wise person and he or she will appreciate you. Social problems and ethical challenges that affect our workforce productivity should be appropriately and collectively addressed in order for the economy and the country to be more competitive. We all can individually model good character as a start while also enforcing high ethical standards. We can also expect high ethical standards from everyone in our community, every official in society, and obviously every single business. We can also get professional assistance by hiring or asking ethics officers to assist us in making complex decisions that impact the environment, the employees, the customers, and other stakeholders that are involved. We can also have ombudsmen to help us stay fair, just, and effective leaders in business everywhere. The only way to build and enhance the muscles of your ethical brand image as a leader, as a professional, is to chisel it through hard work, high standards, and consistent ethical behaviors. Good luck to every single one of you. Be ethical. If you cannot, then be very careful.